I've got a new bike. 1,000 thank yous to Orbea, who have sent me this Rallon, and it's not just any Rallon, it's the top end, best, most feature-packed Rallon money can buy. I'm absolutely over the moon with it. It looks crazy, mostly because I've done the Mayo custom paint option, and I've chosen this rainbow metal flake. It's been nicknamed Trout Boy by everyone in the shop because it looks like a rainbow trout in the sunshine. Not sure I wanted it to be called Trout Boy, but there we go, that's what we got. So this video is gonna be a little bit of a bike check, but mostly me going through all the different settings on this bike, because there are tons. There's geometry changes, there's wheel size changes, there's shock progression changes, there's electric suspension, there's tons we need to unpack. So let's go through all the different adjustments, how to make them, and some of the mods I've already done to the bike to make it mine. Out of the box then, the bike was a pretty crazy spec, but I have instantly made some changes because, again, I'm fussy and there's things that I didn't quite want. Stock, I chose the 29-inch version, and then I bought the separate mullet link just so that I had both. Also, it meant that if I ordered the 29er, I got the carbon wheels because there wasn't a carbon wheel option for the 27.5. And I already knew I had my 27.5 reserves from my previous bike. So long story short, I ordered the 29er. I've also swapped over the fork to my trusty Podium, which I love to bits. And I wanted it on this bike for very good reason. I still think it's the best fork on the market, with the best mudguard on the market. Love it or hate it, it's staying. It's a feature of my bikes now because it annoys people. So doesn't matter what bike, I'm gonna fit that mudguard just for the clickbait. XTR brakes, EXO drivetrain, EXO cranks. I have fitted my own 1-up high-rise bars. It's got Orbea's OE stem, which actually comes with quite a cool built-in Garmin mount, which fits on there. I don't run a Garmin, so I've taken that off. I've taken the original chainring off and put my O chain on. Again, something that I really wanted. Fox Kashima transfer post, Galfa rotors, which is an interesting choice. But the main event really is the Fox Neo live valve shock, which I had on the Uno. If you watched the Uno burn videos from last year, I'm running it again. I love the system. I think it works perfect. It's so customizable. My reserve wheels are on purely because I already had a 20mm bolt through axle for the front, and that could just go straight in these forks. Again, the bike comes with adjustable angles as well as adjustable travel. So this is actually the same frame that the World Cup team uses on their downhill World Cup frames. And all you have to do is swap the link, and it gives you 200mm travel with a different shock, and then a downhill fork on the front, and you've got a 200mm downhill bike in the same bike. So that for me was a massive turn on for the bike. It just meant I'd get an enduro bike and a downhill bike in the same bike. Granted, I've got to buy a shock and a fork, but with the Podium, because it's a 20mm axle, I can just swap the front wheel over. I don't have to faff around with hub end caps or different wheels or anything like that. So that was another thumbs up for the Podium. First things first then, let's do the little tweaks, the little features that the bike has. One of them is the split pivot 4-bar design. That's a very, very cool suspension system, and not one that I've actually ridden that much. So I'm quite stoked to actually get out and ride that bike with the split pivot. I have actually ridden the Rallon RS, which is the new lightweight e-bike version, and it felt absolutely sublime out of the box. I did no setup whatsoever. So this should be even better because it's all my parts and my setup. Other little features, things like the little tool that comes out the pivot, the little magnet on it. That's got all the tools you need except for a 6mm, which is a little bit annoying, Orbea. Maybe they could turn the end of it into a 6mm so I could actually take my wheel out. But that's the only issue I draw with that, is it doesn't have the one tool that I need to take the wheels out. So Orbea, make the end of that a 6mm, please. We've also got frame storage in this bike, which is a really nice latch and bag system. And that means that the downhill bike also has frame storage. I don't think there's another downhill bike out there with frame storage in. And if you're doing big days in the Alps, it's quite nice to have a little bit of frame storage there. Or if you're racing, it's nice to have little wipes in there for your goggles and stuff like that for when you're on the uplift. So things like that make this quite a versatile beast. And I can't get that back in without the bottle out. Again, that's another thing, Orbea, is this is really close to the top tube and I can only run a small bottle, but we're splitting hairs at this point. I still love the bike. The biggest feature though, I guess, is the fact that you can order this custom. The amount of customization you can do on the website, on the Orbea Mayo website, is just crazy. You can spec stem length, bar height, chainstay length, which I've gone for the long 450mm. This is a large bike. You can spec the wheel size, you can spec the crank length, and of course, custom paint, which I've gone for this mad unicorn glitter craziness, which in the sun looks absolutely mental. You can also put a custom message or logo on the chainstay. So I've got my little slogan on there, which is hold my beer. Not that I drink beer that much, but the sentiment's there either way. Right, let's have a look underneath the bike, because this area here is where the majority of the cool stuff is happening. We've got various different links to fit here that will change the wheel size, the travel. We can apply bottom bracket weights to the bike to change the weight distribution in the bike, which is a feature I've never had on a bike. So we'll do probably a whole video on that, back-to-back testing. And that's all inside here in this bottom bracket cup area here, which I'll take out now and show you. But on top of that, we've got adjustable headset angle, so head angle cups on a spherical cup at the bottom, and then the top has kind of two different cups that you can flip for plus or minus 1.5 degree, or there's another straight cut cup that just gives you the true straight through head angle. I've gone for the super slack one and a low bottom bracket height, just on a whim. That's just what I've done. But what I'd like to do is actually measure that today and figure out what head angle I've actually got, because remember, I have got a shorter fork on now than is spec'd on the bike. So I'd imagine I've got a steeper head angle than I should have, but I've got it in low and it's mullet. So yeah, anyway, I want to record some settings and bring you all along with me whilst I painfully get through decisions on which angles to run. So that's the link that I am using. That's the 27.5 Enduro link. You can see that square offset drilled little flip chip in there. You can actually pop this out and turn it around, and that will give you different settings: high pivot, low pivot, high progression, low progression. So I'm in high progression, low pivot. That's right. Something like that. There. Like that. That's right. I'm not running any weight on this bike at the moment, but I can run up to, hold on a minute, I've got some notes, 529 grams on the Enduro link. On the downhill link, I can run 544 grams, or 378 grams, or 84 grams, or 80 grams times 2. You can actually offset the weight of the drivetrain on the downhill bike by running weights on one side of the bike. So this is a real minutiae of adjustments that you can make on this bike. Maybe you're splitting hairs with some of this stuff, but this bike has been designed with the performance athlete in mind who wants the very, very best adjustments he can possibly make. When World Cups are won by hundreds of seconds, these things matter. Not that I'm about to win a World Cup, but maybe a pedal house. Couple of mods I've made in this area with some moto foam. I'll show you that now and the reasons for it. So this area here on the stock bike is quite exposed. There's just a big hole where the shock mounts in, which is completely open, and then this underneath, which is kind of like a sort of cup thing. Because this bit's completely flat, the water would, in my eyes, just sit there. There is kind of a drainage, but there's a step up on it. So I drilled a hole in it, and I put a bit of foam there just to kind of catch any water and direct it into that hole. I haven't actually tested it with the tap. Maybe I'll go and do that. But that's the first moto foam mod that I made. Sorry, Orbea, I defaced your thing straight away. The other thing is I've used some moto foam in here. This very professional looking piece of foam, and that just sits on top of the link like that, and just stops any mud and crap getting all over it. And then I want to measure everything because I have made a fork change, and I want to just check that that geometry is going to be within sensible area for me to ride the bike properly. Orbea have a brilliant geometry chart on their website where you can select everything, 29er, 27.5, long chainstay, short chainstay, and it will change all the numbers for you. They've also got something called a blue paper, which they print or publish for each of their bikes. It's a massive paper full of absolutely everything you'd ever need to know. So if you ever got any questions with your Orbea, jump on to the Orbea website and download the blue paper for your bike because it's a phenomenal article. Bob on, bottom bracket height. So on the geometry chart, I've set it to mullet, low progressive, slack head angle, which is negative 0.75 degrees. I'm correcting myself because I said 1.5 degrees earlier in the video. Long chainstay at 450 mil, and BB height, I should have 343, 344, which I've got. And head angle should be 63.2, which I've got. So basically no change from the stock fork, even though the axle to crown length was different, but it was only a tiny, tiny bit different. So that's perfect. They're just the right angles for me. I'm going to be racing the bike for enduros, and that is absolutely spot on angles. 78.8. 79 degrees. That's pretty steep seat tube angle, so climbing the bike is going to feel really natural and make loads of sense. Not going to pop the front wheel or anything like that. So that is the chassis setup essentially. All my parts are on. It's almost ready to ride, but we do need to go out and do a proper shakedown, get stuff properly dialed in and set up, especially the suspension. It's got the Fox Neo on it. And I need to take my phone out and go through the settings on the app. I think the settings that I had on the Uno Burn are going to transfer straight over, essentially. I don't think I'm going to change much on the way that the lockout works, but I do need to look at volume spacers, sag, low speed compression, high speed compression, the whole thing. So I am dying to ride it. You got it?
Yep.
Oh, that's better. 16.4, that's still good. I mean, XC boy over here is grimacing.
Where's the motor?